Ooh, that looks tasty.
The dead are walking. You'll be okay, as long as you run. That is, as long as you run faster than the person next to you.
Welcome folks, today the Hungry Gamer is back with another game review. And today we are talking about The Walking Dead, Something to Fear, designed by Derek and Lizzy Funkhouser, with art by Justin Chan and published by Skybound Games. Now, before I get going, please make sure you have your Klingon subtitles turned on, because if I make a mistake in the rules explanation, that is where you will find a correction. And so, The Walking Dead, Something to Fear is a set collection, a little bit of social deduction, simultaneous play card game, clearly based in the Walking Dead universe. Now, if you are not at all interested in how the game plays, or maybe you already know, and just want to jump ahead to my final thoughts, then you're going to want to move to the timestamp that's on the screen right now. Okay, for those of us still here, this game is actually quite simple to play and understand. And it's a game for 2 to 6 players. I have it set up for 3 players right now. And let's talk about what you see in front of you. Each player has their own deck of identical cards, and they're all characters from the comic TV show and so on. You can see those there. And each one has a value in the top corner, and that's going to make sense a little bit later on, and a power that can be used every time they are played. Then we have the Tiebreaker card, which is an eye patch. If I knew The Walking Dead, I'm sure that would make sense to me. And the Tiebreaker is clearly used to break ties, and you give it to the player that has most recently eaten someone, I think. So clearly, that's blue. And then up here we have our market area, which is where you're going to be collecting cards from, and that's how you win the game. Let's talk about these cards quickly. So up here, this is the damage that this card will deal if it winds up in the mob at the end of the game. That'll make sense in a minute. And then down here are the points you gain for collecting the card in sets. If you have 1 Negan, it's worth 10 points. If you have 2, negative 20. But if you have 3, it's worth 40. And let's look at this other card here. This one is worth 5 damage if it's in the mob. And if it's in your stash at the end of the game, you will take 2 damage. Again, that will make sense later on. And this walker counts as 3 walkers. And then there are various other cards in the deck. There's a couple different things that you can get a hold of. Now, the only thing that I will say before I move along is that you vary the number of cards in your deck based on the number of players you have. So what you do is you look at the back of the deck, and it tells you the number of players that you use this card for. So every game you have that card, whereas some of the others in here, for example, this card you only use if you're playing with 3 to 6 players, and so you get the idea there. The way each round works is very simple. We are going to play 9 rounds in this game, and you will use every single one of your character cards. So each round, everybody will have drawn 3 cards, and I'm just going to do this totally blind and at random to give you an idea of how this game works. And so what's going to happen is each player is going to pick one of their cards, and they get to look at them, but for the moment, I will just put out the top one of each player's deck here, or excuse me, their hand, and then we'll see what happens. So, at the same time, everyone flips their card, and the first thing you do is you check to see if there are any lightning bolts. That means when the card is flipped, their ability can be used. And so we see here, on reveal, turn order plays lowest to highest this round. On your turn, secure a card, you may destroy a card in your stash. So usually, the highest number card gets to make the first pick. But now, because Carl's been played, the lowest number starts. So Carl will actually get to go first. Then Carl gets to pick one of these cards up here to secure, i.e. take into their stash. And just for kicks, we'll say Carl's just going to grab some supplies. Worth 10 points at the end of the game. And then Carl's power would be he could destroy a card in his stash if he had something maybe he didn't like. And then that's the end of that card. Then we go to the next lowest, which is Ezekiel. And Ezekiel's power is secure a card, you may swap a card in your stash with a card in another player's stash. Simple enough, and we'll just say that Ezekiel here is going to grab Negan and put it into his stash. And then, last but not least, we have Andrea. You may secure a card from the mob or from the encounter row. So I could take a card from the mob if there's anything out there. I'm going to show you what that is right now. And so for the moment, she will take this Walker Horde. Now, as you can see, there is one card left. This gets discarded into the mob, and that will slowly be building up as we play through the game. That's it. That is the game in its entirety. All you need to know is final scoring. And so eventually you come to the end of the game, and every single player has 9 cards in their stash. It may be a little different based on player abilities, but roughly 9. And there will be roughly 9 cards in the mob. The first thing that you got to do is you have to see how much damage there is in the mob. So you're counting these numbers up here. So we have 0, 4, 6, 17, 19. So that's pretty bad news for everybody else. And so we have 19 there. The number of damage that will put you out of the game is 20. So then each player, they look through and they see how much damage they have here. So this player would be at 21, so 23, they are out. They have not survived the zombie apocalypse. They don't even get to score. Now, had everyone not died, if we were actually to be scoring points, let me show you just roughly how that actually works. So you're looking for the gold numbers on the bottom. So that's worth nothing. So that's worth 10 points. I have 1 Negan, that's another 10 points. Then the walkers, whoever has the most walkers gets 25 points, second most gets 10, and you'll see that I have 1, 4, 5 walkers. We'll say that was worth second place, that's another 10 points, so I'm at 30. Then Saviours are done in sets. So if you have 1, it's worth 8, 2 is worth 16, 3 is worth 32, so that's another 32 points. I will also say that is almost all of the cards that you can get. I'll show you the others really quickly. There is also weapons, which are worth 5 points, and they have another special ability there. And then there is the governor, who is worth 20, 10, and 5, but gives you control of the tiebreaker should it matter. Now, as I said, that's the entire game. It is quick and relatively simple. So, what do I like about this game? First of all, I really like the artwork. I have no idea how true to the comic or even the TV show this is, but I like it. And I have to say, I pretty much always like the art on Skybound games. I like that it's, zombified, but it's not gruesome, really. It's not horrific, even though this guy should be kind of horrific looking. He's not really. And for me, I like that, but I don't particularly like gore that much in my games. The second thing that I really enjoy is it's a really fast game. It's not hard to play, and it's not hard to teach. So I'm a big fan of that. There's not a lot of rules. It's very streamlined and simple. And that is always a plus in my book. I'll also throw out that this game is significantly more strategic than I initially thought it was going to be when I looked at the rules to this game. And that is simply because these different abilities really are game changers, and all of them have a time and a place to use them which will really benefit you. And it's completely changes what's going on, because what you're suddenly doing is you're no longer just trying to get the highest card out to get what you want, but you're trying to read your opponents, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I think they're going to do? And there's a little bit of luck involved in the base mode, because you're drawing 3 cards and you're playing one, then you're drawing 1 more, so you don't have too many options. Though the rule book does have the advanced mode, which is you get all your cards all the time, you play them and they go away, and that's a little bit more challenging, a little more strategic, I think. So I think all of that is really, really delightful. And let's move on to the few quibbles that I have. And I'll start with the ones that barely even qualify as a quibble. And the first one is, I wish there were more options and variants on these event cards. I like the sets, and they are a good variety of what they do. I just wish there were a few more options. And I'm sure there will be plenty of card packs released down the road that will fix that. The game still works plenty well without more. I think, though, on many, many plays, it would be nice to have some other options out there. And then I do have one quibble that I think is a little more legitimate. This is a nice box. It's not too big in general. It's not something that's going to have a hard time getting on your shelf, but that's the inside. And this box doesn't make any sense to me. Don't know why I'm tapping that. And the challenge of it is, and I have my extra cards here just in the bag so they stay together, and that's part of it, is that they need to be in the bag to stay together. And even if I had a bunch more cards, enough to fill all the way down in this box, they don't fit. I could put them in that way, but clearly that doesn't work. And even if I could put them in sideways, it's still too tall. It just doesn't quite work. So I have them in bags and they sit in there, and even when they're all in there, there's a ton of extra space. And that doesn't even mention that there's all that extra space. So as near as I can guess, there will eventually be lots and lots of extra cards that you'll be able to add in. But even then, the box still doesn't really work because you're just having to bag up your cards. So, anyhow, it has literally nothing to do with the game itself, but I just found it to be a little bit of a bummer that the insert is as it is. There you have it, folks. This is a game that, if you're a fan of zombies and The Walking Dead, which I'm neither, to be honest, this is a game worth checking out. You will not be flummoxed by this game. You will not be confused by this game, because it does exactly what it says it's going to do. It's fast, light, easy, with just enough strategy to be interesting. And it's also worth noting that the game at 2 players and the game at 5 players is a very, very different game. For me, I prefer the idea of the game with more players, because when it's just 2 players, there's a lot of, you're now really counting your opponent's cards, and it's just a different kind of strategy than it is with the more chaos and more players. I don't necessarily know that one is better or worse. It's just something for you to keep in mind if you're interested in this game. I think if you like games with just a hint of social deduction in there, and you like set collection, then it's worth checking out. And I think, all in all, this is quite a good filler game. This is a good option to have on a game day, because it has a high player count, or it can be played with a low player count. It says on the box 20 to 40 minutes. That's a big fat lie. I think it's probably 10 to 30 minutes. I guess you could be playing in a group of people that just can't make up their mind, but I don't like to play with those people anyway, so, not my problem. And it's just a perfect game to have for a large game day like that. It's quick, got some good strategy, it's got pretty art to look at, doesn't take up a lot of table space, lots of good things there. So, as always, if I made a mistake in the rules explanation, please let me know with the timestamp so I can get that into the Klingon subtitles as quickly as possible. If you found this video at all useful, or even if you didn't find it useful, you're still here, so you might as well give it a like. Subscribe to the channel, because if this video wasn't your favorite, maybe some of my others are. Check them out. As always, thank you so very much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.